Hey, it's Matthew Berry from the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. Today on the show, Field Yates, Stephon Bell, and I talk about Le'Veon Bell, plus Edelman and Watkins off the PUP list. We talk injuries and wide receivers. Just go to the ESPN app, click on the Listen tab, and check out Fantasy Focus Football.
Hey, coming up on the First Take podcast on a Tuesday, Timmy Tebow returns to the field, but this time he won't have to throw a pass. Stay tuned for that conversation. And what will it take to finally get Joey Bosa in Chargers camp? It's got his mother all fired up. Plus, should the Yankees retire A-Rod's number? That and so much more. Let's get it started. First Take on a Tuesday. Good day. Thank you for being here with us. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman. I am Molly Karam. Hello.
What's up? What's up? What's going on, my man? How you doing? What's going on? Everything all right?
I'm fired up. I'm ready for today. Yes, we do this much smoother.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into it because we got some news, Stephen A. We begin with Timmy Tebow. Our Adam Schefter reports the former NFL quarterback and current ESPN broadcaster is actively pursuing.
Steven, stay on the set. Where are you going?
Listen to this. A career in Major League Baseball. Tebow plans to hold a workout for MLB teams later this month, according to his agents Jimmy Sexton and Nick Kahn. He's been training in Arizona and Los Angeles for almost a year now, honing his play as a professional batter and outfielder in a sport he hasn't played on a full-time basis since he was in high school in 2005. So all 30 Major League Baseball teams will be invited to Tebow's workout at the end of the month, an event he's been preparing for over the past year. Mr. Smith, your reaction?
You know, I'm speechless. I just don't know what to say. I mean, look, I was riding in this morning and I heard Mike Golick on the airwaves talking about what a great, great athlete Tim Tebow is. Oh, stop. I mean, look, Tim Tebow is my friend, okay? He's such a nice guy. He truly, truly is. He is our colleague, and he has been. I don't enjoy saying these things about him, but I'm going to say it because out of necessity, it simply cannot be avoided. The man couldn't throw a football, okay? He completed 46.5% of his passes. All right. Yes, Max. And then you and my boy, all of you make me sick. All of you about Tim Tebow. I just can't take it because, oh my Lord, the sun just shines and sets. Oh my Lord, Tim Tebow wants to play baseball. So let me get this straight. You play football all the time. Wanted to be a quarterback all the time. Practiced all the time and still couldn't throw. But baseball, which you were very good at, by the way, at Florida, all due respect, okay, you haven't been playing that in years. So the sport that you practiced religiously and somehow couldn't make happen, all right, now you're going to go to baseball where the ball is smaller and dudes are throwing at you 95 miles an hour and all of a sudden you just going to come out of nowhere and you're going to become a Major League Baseball player. There is such, look, I've said this on many occasions. I'm trying to be nice. I truly am trying to be nice. But the arrogance, if I am a baseball player, do you know how insulted I am that Tim Tebow's about to have a workout and everybody and their grandmother's planning on showing up to see Tim Tebow?
Michael Jordan couldn't get it done.
Well, listen. Look, but at least Michael Jordan was great at the basketball end of things. I mean, Tim Tebow practiced every day.
You need your voice for the rest of the show, Stephen. Calm down.
Man,
you're losing your voice already?
I'm not losing my voice. I cannot believe that this is the news. I mean, I understand that it's news, but I cannot believe that this is the route that he was going. He had us all convinced that all he wanted to do was be a quarterback. Remember that?
Yeah.
I just want to be a quarterback. I want to be a linebacker. I don't want to be a tailback. I don't want to be a fullback. I don't want to be a tight end. I want to be a quarterback. Now, at age 29, years removed from playing baseball, when you got young dudes out there who are studs, pounding that pavement, working on their game all day long, every day of the year, Tim Tebow's going to come out of nowhere. and suddenly he wants to be a baseball star. This is just
keep in mind, he didn't play at Florida. He just played in high school.
I'm sorry,
too.
I apologize.
Yeah, so he had a high school career.
I apologize. Exactly. He didn't play at Florida. He played at high school, and they said he could have played at Florida had he wanted to, but he chose football. So let me take it a step further. You ain't played since high school. Oh, my God. And the sport that you were playing, you weren't that damn good? Okay, let's just call it what it is. And then you're going to turn around, and now you're going to sit up there and deal with cats throwing 95 miles an hour. I mean, this is unbelievable. Go ahead, Mac. Just go ahead. Just go ahead. I can't believe it. Go ahead.
You said Tebow is a friend of yours.
He is.
Let
He's
me
my
put this.
friend.
I'm going to put this in language you can understand from your era, from our era way back, Stephen A. New York City, way back in the day, okay? Houdini. With friends like that, you don't need enemies. If you're his friend, oh, my God, Tim Tebow. Listen, you're blaming him for the fact that he has enough celebrity that the media cares what he does. Now, is he going to succeed in baseball? Of course not. Because baseball is a very mechanical sport. A sport even less like, even more exaggerated in this respect than football. You can't simply impose your athleticism or your passion on baseball. It is endless repetition. It is much, much more mechanical. And if his mechanics weren't good enough in the pocket to throw down the field, it is so unlikely that he will be a successful professional baseball player. It's ridiculous. But I'm not going to hate on him for giving it a shot, for pursuing his dream. If the media wants to show up with cameras, that's not his fault that people are interested in what he does.
It's not his fault.
Why?
So in other words, you know what? Let me interrupt. I'm sorry. You know what bothers me about that statement you just made?
Go ahead.
You know, you turning into this Tebow protector or apologist. I don't know what the word is.
You're doing that to me.
You're starting to get on my nerves with this stuff. Let me tell you why, Max Kellerman. You act like Tim Tebow was just practicing on a baseball field minding his business and somebody spotted him or something. No, this was an announcement. It was something that he leaked. It was something that he informed people about. So this is not an accident. He wants the publicity. Look. And nobody ever says that about Tim Tebow. And listen, he does a good job at this network. Let me be very, very clear. I'm very pleased with the job that I've seen Tim Tebow do. Very honored to call him a colleague, and he's an incredibly nice man. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I am going to stick to my position. The man couldn't throw a damn football. He practiced every day. Now you're trying to go the baseball route, which you haven't played since high school, and then you got Max Kellerman sitting across from me acting like he was just minding his business, and we spotted him playing football like I spotted
We don't have to cover it.
Dude.
We don't have to cover it. We're doing the NBA block.
I understand that. I understand that because the point that I'm trying to make to you is that he informed folks of
And that's one of the reasons. Listen, there are various reasons I think that Tebow fans feel as though he hasn't been given his proper due or not given his justified shot, in the sense that we'll go over it again. Kyle Orton was considered at the time, maybe incorrectly, but at the time was considered a low average quarterback.
Okay.
Replacement level, but starting quarterback caliber player.
Go ahead.
They couldn't buy a win. Tebow comes in, they go 7-4 and win a playoff game. He never started under center he never played quarterback again in the NFL. He made some, now, so partly Tebow fans feel that he has been discriminated against in one way or another.
Okay.
However, I will say this. Him sidling up to Mark Sanchez, putting his arm around him at Jets camp and stuff like that, and the cameras are there, probably rubs some in football the wrong way, as though he's seeking publicity. I, however, can't blame a guy for being passionate about what he does and wanting to pursue it.
I just need to know, do I need to project and aim my ire at Tebow fans, or am I talking to one? Because, see, you're not clear. You keep saying Tebow fans. I'm talking to you.
Well, I got to admit something. Okay, I got to admit something.
Who is it?
I'm going to admit it.
They ain't sitting here. You are. What's your position?
I'm going to admit it.
What's your position?
When Tebow was in college, I said he is going to be a terrible NFL player. I was looking forward. All these people telling me about Tebow. I'm like, come on, he's going to be terrible. However, I'm an empiricist by nature, Stephen A. As, you know, when the facts change, so does my opinion. And the fact is, he went 7-4 and won a playoff game. And I don't care if you do it by hook or by crook. And I don't care if it's because you inspire your teammates in the huddle or you got a little lucky, whatever it is. I don't even care really if it's correlation and not causal. The fact is, when they started that guy, a franchise that could not win started winning, and he never really got another shot. Now, I'll say this. I'll say this.
Go ahead.
So he's kind of turned me into a fan. Yes, as him the player, because I feel like it's not fair. Now, I will say this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Given Tim Tebow's athletic ability.
Yes.
If he,
Go ahead.
he's very athletic.
Go ahead.
If he simply winds up contributing to popular culture, right, which is what he's doing now, then not only has he failed to compromise, hey, Tim Tebow, maybe play another position if no one wants to play at quarterback, but I also think the American sporting world in some way has failed, because the fact that this guy couldn't succeed at the highest level in some sport, given his athletic ability, doesn't add up to me.
You know what, Max? It's amazing, considering your brilliance, your ability to articulate and elocute your thoughts so fluidly, as impressive as it may sound. It's beautiful that you say so much sometimes when it comes to your favorites, yet you say so little, because you left out some key elements here. Allow me to remind you. Do you realize that the Tebow legend, which primarily exists from his days at the University of Florida, never really should have happened? Had Cam Newton not been dismissed from Florida, had he been granted a second chance to make up for his supposed faux pas, and they showed some compassion, then Cam Newton would have been there, and there would have been a Tebow era, because I think we all know that Tebow couldn't mess with Cam Newton. I think that much is clear.
Are you saying that I'm saying that Tebow's the best player in the world?
No, I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying that you left that nugget of information out, because when you talk about him, you act like there's some legendary status that we need to pay attention to, when in fact it shouldn't have been one at Florida to begin with, because Cam Newton should have been there. But here's
what do you do with the opportunity?
Let me take. That's fine. Running the football, because the damn sure wasn't throwing it.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm
getting to that. I'm getting to that now, because here's the thing. When you go to Denver, you're 7-4 and 11 starts. Trust me, I've had this argument so many times with other people. I got to do the memory. Don't even worry about it. I remember everything. I understand the fact that they had the #1 rushing attack with Tim Tebow. I understand that they went 7-4 with them. I understand that he lucked up because a dead clock is right twice a day, and he threw a
seven times out of 11.
And he threw a pass to Demaryius Thomas that he scampered 80 yards to beat my Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game, which made me sick to my stomach, nauseated.
This is about.
I get all of that.
That's what this is about.
This goes further than that, because here's the reality that you need to remember. Despite all of that, there were games that Tim Tebow won when he completed just 2 passes.
So?
Even though, it matters. Why? Because you say you want to be a quarterback. A quarterback's job description is to be able to throw the damn football, which he never could do. And that is that. So when y'all talk about Tim Tebow and you talk about all of this other stuff, you trying to talk about throwing a baseball. I thought I needed to see you throw a football. I mean, maybe you could throw a football better. Maybe you could throw a baseball better. Maybe, just maybe. I don't know. But you haven't played since high school. Is it not the height of arrogance that you think that you could just go out there and play professional baseball?
We agree.
He's not.
The odds that he succeeds in professional baseball are virtually zero, and you might not even say virtually. They're zero. He's not going to succeed at baseball. But I'm not going to kill the guy because he wants to pursue a dream, because he wants to follow his passion.
I'm saying he's inviting.
And by the way, whether or not he threw the ball, who cares how you win? Just win. You always say just win, baby. You're Mr. Just Win, baby.
No, that's not true. That's the Raiders. I'm no Raiders fan.
You quoted a lot.
I quoted a lot. I like the quote. That don't mean I like the Raiders. You understand? I was a Steelers fan. Pump the brakes. Let's remember that. The other thing is,
he beat your Steelers in the playoffs. You haven't gotten over.
We have more Tebow news to get to, by the way.
We do.
Yes, but you finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
We can get into it now?
Go ahead, get into it now. I'm just saying that, listen, he's inviting the attention from the media, okay? Using the media to try and bloat.
I know, you're going to cover the workout. Sports Center sending you out. That's what I heard. 6 o'clock, Stephen A will be there on the field.
I promise you it won't be on 6 o'clock. I promise that. Go ahead.
Tebow, not just in the news for his baseball career, but his football career as well. Broncos GM John Elway told the Denver Post Tebow has a fan base behind him, and there was probably only one guy that we could have replaced him with that people would understand, and that was Peyton Manning. Stephen A? Elway have a point?
He does have a point. Because of what I just finished articulating. Even though there were critics of Tim Tebow, and some of it was excessive and unfair because it was of a personal nature, because he had this goody two-shoes image, which I believe is legit and justified, and he should not have been criticized for. People use that against him to hate on him. But by and large, he had a level of support unseen by any mediocre player in NFL history. Usually that kind of adulation, that kind of affection is reserved for marquee dudes who show up time and time again. It isn't reserved for somebody who's marginal at best as a football player on a professional level, which is what Tim Tebow was as a quarterback. So what it comes to is this. John Elway was saying, he was so popular, he has such a rabid following, that the only person that we could replace him with without taking immense heat from it and potentially costing us at the gate or in paraphernalia and sales and all of this other stuff and beyond, the only person that could pull that off was Peyton Manning. I do believe entirely that John Elway is right about that point. There was only one person that he could justify succeed, because you wasn't going to get Tom Brady, you wasn't going to get Aaron Rodgers, but you were literally going to have a superstar elite quarterback to replace Tim Tebow. Good wasn't going to be good enough because his rabid following wanted him in there no matter what, and you had damn well better have the strongest justification in order for him not to be that dude. And that is why John Elway is absolutely right in what he said. Only Peyton Manning at that particular time could have pulled off moving Tebow out so quickly.
But if, in fact, that was the impetus, or that was what allowed Elway to make the move, then that's a bad admission by Elway.
So
placating a fan base is never the right idea. Oh, you can't sell it to the fans. To hell with selling it to the fans. The bottom line is, if you start winning, the fans come right back.
Just win, baby.
The problem is if you start losing and you've made an unpopular decision. Now let's talk about why Peyton Manning did make sense in terms of replacing Tebow to those fans. And this speaks to the fact that he couldn't throw the ball. Tebow is a man of faith, and he wears it on his sleeve, and everyone realizes it, and that's one of the reasons that he's connected to a large fan base. And when you think about the fact that Stephen A., your arguments are right. There's no reason he should have won 7 out of 11 games for a team that couldn't win. There's no reason he should have beaten your Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. When, again, Kyle Orton, who was considered decent at the time, who was a replacement level kind of guy, couldn't buy a win. So that also connected with the fans because it seemed to be faith-based. It seemed to be that Tebow had such belief in himself and his team that it inspired his team. And in spite of the lack of evidence, right? What's faith? It's belief in the face of a lack of evidence. Despite of a lack of evidence in terms of his ability to throw at the quarterback position, they won. And it inspired everybody. So given that context, yes, you need to sell the fan base removing that guy after you won a playoff game. The way you replace their faith in him is you say, okay, yeah, we get it. But we're bringing in the best player of all time. Yeah. You could argue Peyton Manning during the regular season is the best player who ever lived. And by the way, then he set the touchdown record. So,
I understand what you're saying. But here's a bigger point in all seriousness that we all need to come to terms with about Tim Tebow. His popularity is what essentially stretches his longevity and his sustainability in this game or in the world of professional sports. Tim Tebow, with all due respect, as a quarterback, not as an athlete, not as a football player, as a quarterback, has done nothing to deserve to be in the NFL based on what they tell us a quarterback is supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to throw the football. You're supposed to be able to run an offense. With Tim Tebow, in the read option and what have you, he could run the football effectively, which is why the Denver Broncos had the #1 rushing attack. They also was getting killed in terms of their defense had to come to the rescue and hold stuff down for 3 quarters because, again, his QBR in the 4th quarter, particularly in the last 5 minutes, may have been impressive, but you sacrificed the first 55 minutes of the game.
Just did that to win the Super Bowl, Stephen A. You just described them winning the Super Bowl just now.
That's not true, because what Peyton Manning would do was Peyton Manning would move the chains. Peyton Manning would make Peyton Manning would move the chains. He would make right decisions, and the defense was elite this go round. It wasn't elite when Tim Tebow was there. It was ranked 24th in the NFL at the time, 20th in yards allowed in 2011. So if you had a Tim Tebow, you needed those points. You were not getting those points. They got outscored by 81 points. In terms of yards allowed, the opponents literally had almost 700 more yards than the Denver Broncos that particular season. Tim Tebow wasn't that effective, but he ran the football effectively, and he had a rabid following where people walked through the turnstiles, and the television networks had the eye of the world on him because he was such a sensational story to follow.
Agreed.
That's a disservice to a lot of players out there who pound the pavement, obtain the requisite skills, and are still held back because they don't have that following.
Quickly.
That ain't right.
Two things quickly. I agree with that. Your argument would be a lot easier to make if you went, 2-9 instead of 7-4. And two, if the argument is, did they do the right thing by bringing in Peyton Manning? The answer is yes, of course. 55 touchdowns in the Super Bowl appearance, and then a Super Bowl win when he wasn't even good anymore. Of course they made the right choice. It was Peyton Manning.
Well, you remember Tommy's, what was his name? I think it was Tommy Frazier. I think it was Charlie Ward and others. There were plenty of quarterbacks that came before Tim Tebow that could run the football just as effectively, that could do some damage on the football field, that didn't get nearly the shine that he
that was Charlie Ward's choice. He wanted to play basketball.
Yeah, but he wasn't getting the shine when he wanted to play football, which is why he elected to play basketball. So you have people who resent Tim Tebow because of that. That's not his fault. Tim Tebow's a very good guy, but you have that religious right that really, really followed and support him, and a lot of people resent the fact that that's elevating his stature, because that does have a lot to do with it, because it damn sure ain't his performance. Let's keep it real.
I want to wrap this up with an insider's perspective we just saw here. So obviously a lot of people think the baseball tryout's a publicity stunt. We have a statement from Chad Moeller. He's a former major league catcher who's been training him in Arizona. And here's what he had to say. I'm beyond impressed with Tim's athleticism and swing, and it goes without saying that he's shown a high level of discipline and strong work ethic. I see bat speed and power and real baseball talent. I truly believe Tim has the skill set and potential to achieve his goal of playing in the major leagues. And based on what I've seen over the past few months, it could happen relatively quickly. That was Chad Moeller, the former catcher. He's training him in Scottsdale at his facility.
Save that quote and save that name.
Sure.
Everybody want to. If we got quarterback gurus that have spoken on behalf of Tim Tebow, now we got a baseball guru that is talking on behalf of Tim Tebow. I want names. I want names. I want their quotes. Save it.
It's only
That's what I'm saying. Save it. I want the name. Excuse me. I'm gonna be here till 12 noon. Ain't nobody fading. I'll keep the energy up. You ain't got the word. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Keep the names and the quotes. Okay. I want the name and the quotes because I will defer to them at a later date. That's all I'm going to say.
We all had our eyes on Joey Bosa during draft night, and the Ohio State defensive end didn't last long, taken third overall by the San Diego Chargers. However, he is not in camp and has yet to reach a contract agreement with the team. And his mother, Cheryl Camaro Bosa, is not pleased. She took to Facebook to vent her frustrations. This was first reported by SDBoltReport.com. So here's the deal. The message was in response to a Facebook user who said he hoped it turns out well for your son. Chargers are horrible at stopping the running game. So Cheryl Bosa responded, it bums me out for him so much. Wish we had pulled an Eli Manning on draft day. A source told the San Diego Union Tribune that the post was left by Cheryl Bosa, and then a source confirmed the post's authenticity to ESPN's Jim Trotter. The post has since been removed from Facebook. Oh, Max. Is it time for Joey to return to camp?
No, absolutely not. Let me tell everyone what's going on here. And Jamie Hoyle on boltsfromtheblue.com does a very good job of laying this out. But there are two issues in the contract. Now, since the new slotting system, everything should be easy in terms of signing your draft picks. But there have been two issues since that Luck RG3 year where they had issues with the draft picks. There's a signing bonus paid by the team, and players want that signing bonus by the end of their first year. And then there's something called offset language, which means if they cut you after the fourth year, that fifth team option year, you still get the money, okay? If you sign with another team, the team that you took the money from wants to recoup that money. The players are saying, no, we get the money, plus we get the money from the other team we sign with. That's offset language. Since this has gone into effect in 2012, every number 3 pick gets either the offset language out of there or their signing bonus by the end of their rookie year. That's what Joey Bosa is asking for. Nothing special, just to be treated like every number 3 pick since 2012. 11-12, this is the 5th draft now. He'd be the 5th guy. Everyone has been treated before. I want to be treated the same way. Now, the Chargers are standing on their own ceremony. The Chargers are saying, that's not the way we do things. That's disingenuous, because the Chargers haven't drafted in the top 5 since the new slotting system. And this is becoming a battleground, and I wonder if this is the Chargers acting alone or if they're getting pressure from other NFL teams. Here's the battleground, Stephen A. 3 of the top 5 picks this year get either the offset language or they get the signing bonus. One or the other. 3 of the top 5 who have signed so far. It means top 6, really, because Bosa would be the 6th one. If Bosa doesn't get it, if the Chargers get their way, it's 3 out of 6. That's 50-50. That means going forward, teams will be able to say, hey, this is a 50-50 thing. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. If he gets it, that's 4 out of 6. It's 2/3 of the time. Well, guys can credibly go to the teams next year and say, this is precedent. Top 5 pick gets this. So this has become a battleground. I think Bosa, considering everyone before him since the slotting system who's been drafted 3rd has gotten it, he should get one or the other. He's not making an unreasonable demand. The Chargers, I think, are being disingenuous standing on ceremony, Stephen A.
I think you're being unnecessarily complicated. Let me explain. All of the things that you said are right, because it does come down, to that offset language in the contract or one full cash payout. We get all of that. Bosa wants all of his money. Some would argue he's being a bit unreasonable because the Chargers have called him and talked about giving him more money up front in terms of the cash payout. You may not get it all, but you might get like 16 of the 17 million or whatever the case may be. He wants every penny, or he wants that offset language eradicated, etc. You can look at it that way. But here's why I would tell you you're being unnecessarily complicated. Because you're brilliant, and this is what you do. You know what I'm saying? You're like one of those politicians on Sunday mornings where you're talking about politics.
Everybody gives me a compliment. It's always
we're all trying to understand what the hell you're saying. Here's the deal. Let me make it simple for you, Max Kellerman. The Chargers are dead wrong. And they're dead wrong because of their own dereliction of duty. We all know that teams tend to communicate with these players they're about to draft before the draft. You know who you are. You know what your policy is. You know what you stand for. Joey Bosa's father held out for 42 days back in his playing days, if I remember correctly. The apple doesn't fall too far from the daggone tree. You knew what was coming. Do your damn homework and understand that this is a dude that you might not be able to get away with that with and move forward. Kim Dichie was out there along with various others. You could have gone in a different direction. You do your homework as the San Diego Chargers, an organization, by the way, that's missed the playoffs 5 of the last 6 years, whose defense was ranked 21 last year and 20th in yards, who could use the motor of a Joey Bosa, who needs to be in camp, no doubt about it. But if you're the San Diego Chargers, there was rumors about whether or not you're going to move to L.A., you're going to move to Vegas. You missed the playoffs 5 of the last 6 years. You wet the bed last year. You went 4-12. I mean, everything that you look at with this franchise, the audacity, the unmitigated goal for you to sit up here and hold firm to your position. What position? Their position is that we don't negotiate with these terms. This is the way that it's going to be. It's not that damn complicated. The San Diego Chargers dropped the ball because they didn't do their homework and their due diligence enough to know we might not need to grab this dude because the position that we plan on holding firm to is not something that he's going to budge on.
Well, think about
what this comes down to.
What an idiotic policy it is, therefore, for the San Diego Chargers. I'm not even disputing what you're saying. That's true. They could have gone in another direction with a player who would have been more amenable to being railroaded by the team, even though, as is pointed out, the number 3 pick since the slotting system always gets one or the other out. That precedent has been set. But it is really idiotic if that's the policy of the Chargers. And this isn't just kind of a battleground for the NFL generally on this issue, because now what players know is if you're going to be drafted in the top 5, you want to force your way out of San Diego. I mean, the last time they had a top 3 pick, it was Eli Manning, and look what happened.
That's right.
It's happening again.
He wouldn't even come up. If he wants to show up to the Giants, they had to trade the pick. But let's go through a couple of numbers just to make sure our audience understands. In the case of Carson Wentz, drafted number 2 overall, I'm reading from an article here by Michael Gelkin. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. But here's what he said. Wentz, number 2 overall pick, receiving 94.3% of his $17.69 million signing bonus this calendar year. Only $1 million of it is being deferred into 2017. So he's getting most of that chunk of money that he's looking for. Just a little bit deferred, but he's getting most of it, which buffers Bosa's argument. Then you've got the fact that had Bosa showed up to camp last week and accepted the offer on the table, he would have been paid less in cash than the 4 picks who came after him. He was scheduled to make $10.45 million. The Jaguars number 5 pick, Jalen Ramsey, said $12.6 million. Okay, at pick 6 and 7, Ravens offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley and 49ers defensive end DeForest Buckner are at $13.55 and $11.88 million respectively. So if you're Joey Bosa, here's what I would say against Joey Bosa. If the Chargers step up and they say, at least allow us to defer $2 million, we'll give you 15, and you're getting paid more than those other dudes behind you, now it shouldn't be an argument.
Well,
you shouldn't find yourself in a situation where you're Joey Bosa. You're a rookie coming into this league. You've got some things to prove. You've got teammates that you don't want to alienate, even though they all understand business. Again, it's one thing to hold firm to your position that you shouldn't be paid less than the 4 picks subsequently behind you. It's another thing entirely if the San Diego Chargers with their something wrong with them. I won't even say the word I was going to say. But there's something totally different. If they step up and they say those 4 picks behind you that were getting paid more than you, we will erase that. We will make sure you get paid all of them up front this first year. If San Diego does that, Joey Bosa should have his behind in camp.
Okay, see, I think it's bigger than that, though. I think it is an issue of principle here, and it could turn into something between the players' union and their agents, of course, the various agents for the players, and the NFL, the teams. And, by the way, I wonder if San Diego, I'm not saying I know, but if the fact is that San Diego is being pressured by other teams, I wonder if that's collusion, and I wonder what the remedy is to toe the line here.
I don't think
Goff,
that's the case.
Maybe not. Goff, the number 1 pick, you mentioned Wentz. Goff got both the language out of there that they wanted, right? So the offset language is gone. He got the offset language gone, and he got his bonus.
But he's not with the Chargers, and even Jacksonville does that.
That's one. The number 5, another top 5 pick got both. And here he is, and here's Bosa just saying, I just want one or the other, as is always the case. For the Chargers to say we don't do that when they haven't drafted in this position.
They're a family-owned business. They're a family-owned business.
But you know what this reminds me of, Stephen?
Hold on. They're complaining about the arena, the stadium in San Diego, which is why there's been rumors for years about the possibility of them moving, etc. You've got all of that going on. So if this is their policy, I'm not saying they're right. I'm not defending the San Diego Chargers by any stretch of the imagination. What I am saying, however, is if you are Bosa, I understand your principle, but do you want to play football or not? I'm not telling you to sacrifice your money like that. But my God, if they give you $15 million and they just defer $2 million, you trying to tell me you're the number 3 overall pick coming out of Ohio State looking to play pro?
That's reasonable.
That's
what
reasonable.
You're saying is reasonable, but there may be a bigger issue attached to this where maybe he wants to stand on principle. And by the way, Spanos.
Well, then let him go someplace else. Let him go someplace else.
Well, right. That's the idea. That's why his mom is saying we should have pulled an Eli.
Well,
you brought up Spanos. They were belly aching over the Kroenke deal in L.A. Same sort of thing. Like they're complaining like the Monopoly man with the pockets empty. Like I don't have any money. You know, because they're complaining because they're not as rich as some richer owners. They're complaining because they do things in an antiquated way, which has changed.
Which debunks the theory of collusion. You don't have to collude with San Diego. They're relatively cheap. They're not trying to come out with the dollars.
That might be right.
This is who they are.
Bosa has to sign his contract today, or he can't be traded to any other team. And then if he remains with the team unsigned, he has until the first day of the 2017 draft to sign with the Chargers there. So the clock is ticking. Josh Norman, meanwhile, accepted a 1-year offer from Fox to be a regular contributor for the network's NFL coverage, MMQB reported on Monday. According to Norman, he didn't tell his coaches ahead of time. Here's the quote. I haven't told Coach Jay Gruden or defensive coordinator Joe Barry yet, but I'll give them a nice shout out on TV. Just marinate on that. It's not at all going to be a distraction. If you keep your focus on you and not anybody else, you're going to be fine. I'm going to be me on Sunday. So a little later on Monday, Gruden confirmed Norman's claim to the Washington Post. Gruden saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. Pre-game show for what? Great to know. Stephen A., have the same concerns now just returned to D.C. of RG3 with Josh Norman?
Quite possibly. We don't want to say that definitively yet because it's two different positions. The quarterback position is very, very pivotal, far more important than any other position. And with RG3 at the time appearing to be a bit distracted, too focused on his brand instead of his on-field performance, you have far more reasons to be concerned about your quarterback coming across in that fashion than your new star cornerback that you gave a 5-year, $75 million contract to with $50 million guaranteed. But it doesn't negate the fact that I must admit I find myself a bit disappointed in Josh Norman. I don't think that this was a wise move to make. You don't sit up there and take another job before you even started your new job. I mean, Josh Norman has proven himself on the field. He's earned and the right to get the contract that he has received. I'm happy for him. I thought that it was bad for the Carolina Panthers to throw him out like dirty bath water the way that they did. Gettleman did just a few months ago. I hold firm to that position. But then something like this makes you question whether or not they saw something that we didn't see in terms of questioning how he was going to be in the locker room and beyond now that he got the recognition, and obviously he was looking for a new contract and wondering about his presence in that locker room. Now, I think Josh Norman is a good guy. I've interviewed him one-on-one prior to the Super Bowl. You know, I spent time with him in his crib. We were there at the Redskins. Yep. I personally like him. But I put this out just like a Draymond Green, who I'm very fond of. I'll put this out as a warning to Josh Norman. You can't do stuff like this. It's not that you took the job, even though some would say, why don't you show up on the field for the Redskins first and produce? I'm not even sweating that. But when you laugh off that you've accepted a television job before you've even gotten the okay from your bosses, that just doesn't send the right message to the new organization that you're working for. And you never know when that can creep in. Ingratiate yourself with your teammates and the organization. Make everybody recognize that you're all in. And don't, by the way, don't get me wrong. Guys talk about it. Deshaun Jackson was telling me just the other day about how Josh Norman is mad because we didn't get in enough reps. So he's clearly working hard. He wants it badly. He intends to be successful and all of this other stuff. This ain't the end of the world. But this is the kind of thing that if things do go awry, if they do go wrong, how much you want to bet your bottom dollar that a lot of folks are going to hearken back to this situation right here to use it as an excuse to question his level of focus in terms of doing whatever it takes to win. You know the effort is going to be there with him because he'll never cheat you with effort. But RG3 wasn't going to cheat you with effort either. The question was focus. And considering who they just let go of, which is RG3, and he goes to Cleveland, and all the questions that emanated from RG3 because of his focus, for Josh Norman to just land there and before a preseason game to bring that into question, I just think it was a very unwise thing for him to do at this juncture.
And you look at Washington, the Washington franchise. I'm not going to use the name. You look at that franchise and the way they do things. They've made big, flashy moves since Dan Snyder's been the owner. Hainsworth, how'd that work out? RG3 gave up a ton of resources. How'd that work out? Now Norman. And it doesn't seem to be getting off to an auspicious start in the sense that you're discussing. And that's partly because, I mean, for every Deion Sanders who signs as a free agent has a tremendous impact, so much of success in the NFL has to do with your circumstances, your environment, right, the system you're in, etc.
But do you have a problem?
More often, well, what I'm saying is more often it's a Hainsworth situation than a Deion Sanders situation, and here we may have the same thing again. It's possible. Why is that in the NFL? Because, as you mentioned, Stephen A., they know something about this guy that they haven't priced him the same way you've priced him. Teams control players in the NFL. If they're letting a guy go, because he doesn't get to go unless they let him go. It's basically the way the league works. They have some intel on him that makes them say maybe it's okay to let him go. And the Washington franchise seems all too happy to invest tremendous resources in that kind of player. Now, in terms of specifically what he's doing, taking a TV job and not telling his employer in football about it, and then kind of bragging about it, and then, as Molly pointed out earlier this morning, talking about, I'm going to be me on Sunday. You know, you hear me, not we, and all those things. I got to say, in football in particular, in the NFL, there is, on the one hand, it's a very intellectual game. Like A.J. Liebling used to write about boxing, The Sweet Science, a famous book. He said, boxing is chess played on human bodies. It's not true. Football is chess played on human bodies. So it's very intellectual in that sense. There's a lot to know, and football fans are highly educated, etc. However, it's also anti-intellectual in a way, because we ask these players to do things frequently that aren't in their best interest. Hey, go in and do this. Yeah, but it'll make my career shorter. Take this injection. Yeah, but is it good for me? Go do, sacrifice for the team.
I got all of that, Max, but do you have a problem? I mean, what do you do? Was he right to do this? Yes or no?
Yes, he was for himself. No, he wasn't for his team. Because for himself, what he's saying is, I'm going to have a TV career. The NFL says, well, really, what are we asking these guys to do? We're asking them to sacrifice everything to be on a bigger TV show.
Yeah, but
all the NFL is a TV show.
But here's
all the playoffs are a bigger TV show.
Here's the bottom line for me, though. You said it's focus. It's not even focus. It's respect. He wants to have a broadcasting career after he got an opportunity. Good for him. But the Redskins took care of him. They gave him the money, showed him the love. So have some respect, and don't share it with them through the media. It was the way he communicated that I think was disrespectful.
You can say that.
He can take the job.
You can say that, Molly, but that's not where I'm going. What I'm going with you and Max is this. In the end, it doesn't matter whether you think the NFL is reality TV or not. You are going to an organization that just got through the RG3 era. You do something like this after getting a huge contract before you have played a down. And on top of it all, you never informed them. You just announced it. So my point to you is that in the end, it elevates the level of pressure on Josh Norman to go out there and perform even more than the pressure he already had on him. That might be a great thing. That might be a great thing. But at this moment in time, the reason why it could potentially be a big issue is because you are following the RG3 era. And what was the complaint about RG3?
Right, but what you're asking Norman to do speaks to my point. You're saying, hey, kid, drink the Kool-Aid. Do what's best for everyone else. Although
at least for the first moment.
But Norman might say, I'm going to do what's best for me at all times. Now, is that the kind of player you want on your team? No. Because, in fact, that's what I'm talking about. As a fan of the team itself wants players that will act not in their best interest, but in the team's best interest. Frequently, those two things are opposed to each other. He's acting in his best interest. If you're a Washington fan...
So then you don't have a problem with it?
I don't have a problem with him.
Well, that's what I've been waiting to hear. I've been asking you. I've been asking you.
No, if I was... Well, by the way, I'm not a Washington fan. I'm not a Washington fan.
I'm just saying, I've been asking you. What, did you like it or not?
I liked it for Josh Norman.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for.
Wanted out in front of the plate. Martin swipes it home. See? He squeezed it in. Unbelievable.
This weekend, one of baseball's fiercest rivalries heats up at Wrigley Field.
And that one's gone. Home run for Matt Holliday as he gets into one.
Matt Holliday and the St. Louis Cardinals face Chris Bryant and the Chicago Cubs.
Chris Bryant will touch them all.
The Cardinals and Cubs, Saturday at 1:45 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Last year, the Cowboys went 1-11 without Tony Romo, but Jerry Jones told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram he's feeling confident in his backup quarterback situation this season after seeing Sunday night's scrimmage. So let me explain. Bold 2015 undrafted free agent Jameel Showers and 2016 fourth-round pick Dak Prescott took the field. Stephen A's already laughing. And Jerry was impressed. He had a change of heart regarding the need to bolster the quarterback depth. So, Jerry, he's all good. Why are you already laughing?
Because I'm Jerry Jones has just allowed me to take back my position on the Cowboys. They will not win the NFC East just because of stuff like that. He never lets me down. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. The Dallas Cowboys
really
last year,
matter, though,
Tony Romo, Matt Castle, Kellen Moore, Brandon Whedon. They had all of these quarterbacks. Now because of Dak Prescott, what's the other dude's name? I didn't even remember the name. Who?
Jameel Showers.
Jameel what?
Showers.
Oh, Showers. Get ready for the showers. You're a Cowboy. These are the things that happen. It's unbelievable.
They did make it rain.
Listen, they make it rain in so many different ways. They are the Dallas Cowboys. They will find a way. We have not played a preseason game yet. They play this Saturday against Mr. Hard Knocks himself, the Los Angeles Rams, led by Jeff Fisher, who is the epitome of the American dream. Still a head coach in the NFL, for God knows why. It's unbelievable. When I think about the Dallas Cowboys, I just say to myself, this is hilarious. A preseason game has not been played. And Jerry Jones is sitting there talking about backup quarterbacks. Well, first of all, he's talking about backup quarterbacks as if you're going to need them, which means you're anticipating something's going to happen to Tony Romo. That's point number one. Point number two, you're talking about them because you want everybody else to sort of swell with their confidence level about your backups. If Tony Romo goes down this time, fret not, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be just fine because we're the Dallas Cowboys. It's an absolute joke. It's hilarious. But Jerry Jones, I appreciate him so much because this is the hype machine that he is. Tricked me again into talking about the Cowboys because he found a way to make them news, make them relevant, and I get it. All right? Congratulations to you. You pull it off every time I think about having a show without having to talk about the damn Cowboys. You say or do something that makes me laugh, makes me want to cry, makes me want to throw up. Whatever way you want to slice it. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Clearly, Jerry Jones is sitting there and trying to prepare the Dallas Cowboy fan base for things falling apart in some way. And why? Because it usually does. You'll learn, Max, to say it with me. They are an accident waiting to happen. It is inevitable. And I should say the first, because there are other things that happen. There are other things that happen. But the latest situation involving the potential of an accident, he just showed me yet again. Jerry Jones never lets me down. The only thing bad about the segment is that Darren Woodson isn't here so I can laugh in his face. That's the only thing that's bad about this, because I would laugh right in his face because it's a given. This is who the Cowboys are. This is what they do. That's your backup. What's the good?
Showers.
Jameel Showers and Dak Prescott.
Jameel Showers.
Dak Prescott is good. He'll be good down the road. He just needs to get away from the Cowboys because we all know that they're like a virus. They contaminate you. You can't get rid of anything. You just need to get away from the Dallas Cowboys. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
This is the problem with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. He owns the team, so it's a, shiny toy. Then he gets to be the GM. And even as he's ceded control to Stephen Jones, who's a better GM than Jerry, that's pure nepotism. Who says Stephen Jones is a good GM? He's just better than Jerry. And Jerry Jones could look at his track record, or at least look at the rosters that he's put together, obviously with help, but while he's been, the titular GM, and say, well, look, that looks pretty good. Oh, we got unlucky with injuries. But it's not really about luck. It's about the fact that he's taking injury-prone players. It's about the fact that when you know your quarterback is unlikely to make it through a season, you have to have a backup plan. I mentioned as Stephen Jones has taken more control of the team in recent years, they've done some smart things, Stephen A., like, for example, when Johnny Manziel was available in the draft. Don't tell me Jerry Jones wasn't drooling to take Johnny Manziel, but they wound up taking, I think it was an offensive lineman that year. Anyway, 3 out of 4 drafts, they spent their first-round pick on an O-lineman. And eventually, you turned around, you're like, damn, Dallas had a good O-line.
Yeah.
And that was either Zach Martin or Travis. I forgot what.
I may have been Zach Martin that year.
Maybe
it was that year after Zach Martin. But the point is, suddenly you look at Dallas Cowboys, you go, wow, they got some skills positions, guys, and they got an offensive line. And if they could get their defense together, beginning of last season, I remember thinking they could be a Super Bowl contender, but then the quarterback got hurt like he was likely to do, and there didn't seem to be a backup plan. The Dallas Cowboys problem is that the owner won't fire the GM, and he's the GM.
Well, he won't fire the GM, but it's also the fact that he pushes away football people, the Jimmy Johnsons of the world, and people like that who are gone. This is what he does, and it's fine. And now let me get personal for a second, because, you know, I just got a text from one of my boys, Pete Whitfield, I went to college with, and then you got a bunch of other people that listen.
Cowboys fans.
That's the bad part about my life, because I don't hate the Cowboys because of the players. I hate the Cowboys because of their fan base. I think it's the worst fan base in American history. I think they're delusional. They can go 1-15 and wake up and like, we gonna be all right, ain't no problem. And I'm surrounded with a bevy, a crew of dudes that I grew up with or went to school with that are all Cowboy fans.
Isn't that the worst?
You know, I mean, it's just.
You go to like Jersey and half the block is Cowboys fans.
It's ridiculous. My man Mark Turner. You know. Allen Iverson quietly says stuff about them all the time. I mean, it's got to the point where even my man Denzel Watson, I found out he's a Cowboy fan when his son came in here. This is just a bad experience for me. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Here's what I've decided to do. I've come up with a mechanism, a foolproof mechanism to shut all of Cowboy Nation up for the season. Okay. Are you ready for this? Because we all know that the Dallas Cowboys will find a way to lose because they have Jerry Jones. We all know this, okay? I'm going to start mentioning Cowboy fans by name. If they keep messing with me, I want Cowboy. Put the camera back on me right now, please. I want the Dallas Cowboy Nation to know, whether it's radio, whether it's television, whether it's my crew of dudes from college or even from childhood or my man Denzel. I don't care who it is. I am going to start calling Dallas Cowboy fans out by name. Whoever gets on my last damn nerves with these Cowboys and their no good, non-productive selves.
So you want to be trolled by every Cowboys fan in the country?
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones I know. I'm talking about the ones that I know personally. I'm trying to tell you right now, they go about the business of making my life miserable, and then when the Dallas Cowboys lose, you can't find them. They disappear. They go into hibernation for a few days, and then they come out of the wilderness, and then they start talking about, well, we gonna be all right. We gonna be all right, Stephen A. You'll see. I'm tired of it. And I'm targeting Cowboy fans from this point forward. They are mediocre. They should not be representative. We're watching the Olympics, aren't we? Are we enjoying? You know, some of us are enjoying the Olympics out there. We're obviously very patriotic. We're rooting for America. And then we come back to the States, at least mentally, and we find out that America's team is a walking piece of mediocrity. They make me sick.
Yeah,
I can't stand Cowboy fans.
Again,
they're the worst.
Once again, Jerry Jones will give them a product that will give them enough reason to have hope, because they will say behind that offensive line, now we got Ezekiel Elliott, we got Des Bryant, Jason Witten, Tony Romo. Those are stars. That's a star-studded team that you're fielding on offense. The problem is Tony Romo's likely to get hurt. Des Bryant's coming off an injury. Jason Witten's an older player.
That's right.
I got to leave you guys with a quote here. Just last season, remember Jerry Jones said this, Brandon Weeden, he's a thing of beauty throwing the football. Yeah. Frankly, you won't see a more gifted passer.
See, hold on. Let me borrow this right here. Because Molly, you read it wrong. Let me do this for you. Let me do this. Let me tell you how you should have read it.
Show me.
This is me reading something that Jerry Jones said. Brandon Weeden is a thing of beauty throwing the football. Frankly, you won't see a more gifted passer. That's a quote from Jerry Jones. If there was ever a reason
to ignore,
thank you. If there was ever a reason to ignore Jerry Jones and anything he says, unless you're looking for laughter, that is it. Brandon,
the most gifted passer.
Take
it's a little suspect.
Let's go.
Let's
move on.
Listen, you're the one going to the game with Darren Woodson. New York Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner said he would consider honoring Alex Rodriguez in Monument Park, which is considered a sacred honor among his club's fans. Here's Steinbrenner with more on the Michael Kay Show.
That's a bridge to cross when I come to it. But he's done a lot for this organization, and it hasn't just been on the field. I mean, I'm talking about players way back, like even Cano, who he was a mentor to. I mean, he's done a lot for this organization on the field, as Don talked about a few minutes ago, through the years, but also off the field that a lot of people don't know about. He's been a great leader and he's been a great mentor.
On Sunday, the Yankees announced that this will be Rodriguez's last week as a player on the team. A-Rod will assume the role as a special advisor to young players. He will report to Steinbrenner, who's still on the hook for a cool $26 million to Rodriguez. Stephen A. A-Rod in Monument Park. Should this happen?
Hell no. So much so do I feel this way. I actually contemplated going to New York today and calling for a citywide boycott of the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner. I can't believe that he went on my man Michael K's show and spewed such blasphemy. I mean, his daddy's probably rolling over in his grave right now. God bless his soul. The greatest owner in the history of sports, the one and only George Steinbrenner. It is. George Steinbrenner.
Dr. Jerry Buss, the late, great Dr. Jerry Buss. Without all the baggage.
George Steinbrenner. I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Let me tell you something. Hal Steinbrenner, Hank, and Hal, that damn resident sitcom at Yankee Stadium. Don't get me started with them. But I will tell you this, okay? I just want to throw some of the names. You talk about Monument Park. You're talking about, I mean, and just look at some of these names here. The Phil Rizzutos, the Mariano Riveras, the DiMaggios. I mean, are you in Mantle?
Bernie Williams.
The list just goes on. Even Andy Pettitte, of course, Derek G's going to be there. You got to be kidding me. A-Rod? Stop it. Listen. You know, I'm going to try to be nice. A-Rod is a human being.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you can forgive, you can move on. I'm not saying that the man didn't do a good job with Fox as a baseball analyst. I'm not saying he's quite damn good, okay? He really is, all right? You know, I'm not saying that he should walk the streets and people should throw eggs at him or something like that. I'm not saying anything like that. You know, I get it. You know, you made mistakes. Let's move on. I get that. But when you talk about being a Yankee, I mean, first of all, not cheating would help. Not cheating twice would help 2 times as much. But then let's take into account the fact that you sued baseball, you sued the Players Association, you tried to sue the Yankees, you tried to sue team doctors. I mean, it got to the point
and
where
you were lying the whole time.
And lying the whole time. And so much so that Brian Cashman, the general manager, was holding a press conference and he refused to even say Alex Rodriguez's name. And now here we are, a couple of years later. Not even a couple of years, because it's 2016. You were suspended for the entire 2014 season. You played last year, and then obviously this year you're stinking up the joint with your 204 batting average self. The bottom line is this. Be happy that you collecting over $300 million. Be happy that you've been allowed to wear that damn uniform. Be happy that you're still going to collect $27 million over the next year and a half for games you ain't even playing, Mr. Special Advisor. Be happy with that. Talk about him being in Monument Park. Hey, what? You've got to be crazy. There is no way on earth that Alex Rodriguez deserves to have his name in the annals with these individuals associated with the New York Yankees. By the way, we don't even know if you was juiced the year that y'all won the World Series. The lone year he won a World Series title in his career, and of course it was with the New York Yankees, because that's the year he admitted to Peter Gammons that he had been cheating. So guess what? As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to hear all of this stuff about what he did. I'm not sitting there saying we should excoriate him, throw him to the wolves, throw eggs at him when he's walking in the streets. You know, he shouldn't be allowed at my man Jay-Z's club with Juan at 40-40. I'm not saying none of that. Of course, live your life and enjoy yourself. But to be deified and revered to the point of these illustrious names on this list, I don't want to hear it. And don't bring me Andy Pettitte and the fact that he admitted the damn thing. It was one time, it wasn't twice.
Yeah, do you really believe it was 1 or 2 times?
I'm sorry, do you have evidence of that?
I'm saying, you get caught and that's the only time you did it?
Excuse me.
You working out with Roger Clemens?
He wasn't stupid enough to get caught twice. He wasn't stupid enough to get caught twice, nor did he try to sue everybody and their grandmother knowing he was lying.
Suing has to do with Monument Park.
It has everything.
Hold on,
it has everything. First
of all, you can make... You're wrong. You're wrong. He does deserve to be in Monument Park, and I will explain why. Now, I am sensitive as a Yankees fan. No one's a bigger Yankees fan than me.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
All right, New York lovers,
I'll go back. I'll tell you every lineup the Yankees ever had. Now, the point is that you have great players in Monument Park. We mentioned Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and the like, Lou Gehrig. And you also have very good players in Monument Park who just gave you the right feeling, played the right way. Willie Randolph, Paul O'Neill, Yankees fans love them. Thurman Munson, of course. And A-Rod is, in a sense, the anti-Munson. I mean, Yankees fans hate him from way back. It's not just because, as I mentioned, and as we've been talking about, he comes off like a phony. It's because of that Sports Illustrated article where he was disparaging Derek Jeter years ago when they were supposedly friends. Derek Jeter never got over it. Derek Jeter never gave him the Pee Wee Reese where he puts his arm around him. And so Yankees fans never got over it. But here's the bottom line about A-Rod. He is the most productive offensive third baseman in the history of the franchise. The Yankees have had some pretty good ones, including Greg Nettles, who was my favorite. But they've had some, and he's the most productive offensive third baseman in their history. He was a major cog in a World Series Yankees team right in the middle of that lineup. And if you talk about the cheating, Stephen A., you know who doesn't care that Barry Bonds' head tripled in size and so did his home run to at-bat ratio? You know who doesn't care about that? San Francisco Giants fans. They're the ones who defend him. You ever talk to a Giants fan about Barry Bonds? Doesn't matter what you say.
Are you comparing Alex Rodriguez to Barry Bonds?
Actually, they were among a handful of the greatest players in their eras and the greatest players ever, who, at certain points in their career, clearly were different players than at other points, particularly in Bonds' case. And by the way,
Bonds never nosedived in the postseason.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did until he was the Incredible Hulk, and then he couldn't miss the ball.
Excuse me, let me tell you something right now. When you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates team he used to play on, and then the San Francisco Giants team he played on, they weren't necessarily the figurative favorites. You saw Barry Bonds, and it's an individual sport to some degree, but it's a team sport nevertheless in terms of overall production. When you look at A-Rod joining the New York Yankees, when you look at the 111 batting average against Detroit, not once but twice, the 125 batting average against the Baltimore Orioles, the fact that you eradicate the 2009 season, and for the most part he didn't do anything in the postseason.
You can't count that against him. You know why? He wasn't on the juice those years.
But I'm trying to. Well, we don't know that. That's my point. Listen, I'm the guy that's been on the record saying, "What the hell you stop for? If you're going to cheat in the regular season, keep on going. What the hell you stop in September for? Keep on going through October."
You're using a lawsuit. You're using a lawsuit to ignore the numbers.
He is just actually stupid enough to stop cheating before the postseason. I mean, if you're going to cheat all the way. I mean, go for it. What the hell you stop for?
Oh, I'm with you there.
There's plenty of times that he did that. In the end, what it comes down to is this. I'm not using the lawsuits per se to gloss over the numbers. I'm saying the perpetual, habitual, serial style lying that he did, the willingness to besmirch other individuals and to sully their reputation. That is not commiserate with the Yankee tradition.
A-Rod,
you can't be how you gonna be in a Monument Park when you tried to sue the people that made up Monument Park?
A-Rod belongs in Monument Park, but I will admit this: I get the feeling like the other monuments are gonna be wiggling away from his monument.
I would tell you this. He should be considered sooner for the Hall of Fame than he should be considered for Monument Park. Monument Park is about being a Yankee.
You're getting personal now, Mr. New York.
The other thing is, if you come in with negative press as A-Rod did because of Jeter, Reggie Jackson did the same thing to Thurman Munson, you got to come through under pressure like Reggie Jackson, then they love you, and A-Rod did not always do that.
In New York, a lot is riding on Eli Manning in 2016 after the G-Men have missed the playoffs for the past 4 seasons. Manning is entering his 13th season at age 35, but Giants head coach Ben McAdoo said after Monday's practice that Eli is not slowing down and, quote, he's getting better, Max Kellerman. Do you agree with new head coach Ben McAdoo?
I do, and I think Eli Manning has become an extremely underrated quarterback. You heard me right, underrated. Now, listen. When he's playing in Gilbride's offense, complicated offense, windy Giant Stadium before the new Giant Stadium, it's better now, but at the time, bad conditions. Complicated offense, bad conditions, and he has a gunslinger mentality. He's willing to take risks. You're going to throw some interceptions. That's happened. We all know that. But McAdoo, under like a West Coast style offense, he looked much better last year. He has receivers now who can run routes, especially Sterling. They just drafted, and obviously Odell Beckham Jr. He has the weapons. He has the system. Giant Stadium conditions are much better nowadays. And let me just say this about Eli, for those who think I'm overrating him somehow. What's the best ability?
Availability.
Availability. If I were to tell you you're going to use the #1 overall pick on a guy who's starting in week 11 of 2004, that's when he took over the job from Kurt Warner, hasn't missed a start and has done the following. So he's NFL rank over that time. Over Eli's career is NFL rank. #1 in games. There it is. #5 in wins. 4 in passing yards. 4 in passing TDs. Ignore that interception stat. Super Bowl wins, tied for first. But how do you like this? Super Bowl MVPs. He's played in the league the whole time with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger. Super Bowl MVPs first. You know how many guys won 2 Super Bowl MVPs or more in the history of the NFL? Bradshaw, Bart Starr, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Eli Manning. 4th quarter touchdown passes over his career. First. And you get 2 Super Bowl wins? Would you spend the #1 overall pick on that? I would. Do I believe he's set up? Is his ability changed? No. But is he set up for more success in this offense, in this stadium, with these receivers? Yes, he is, Stephen A.
That was very impressive, Sal.
Very impressive. Nice. Sounds beautiful. Particularly when you remember the fact that he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. We can't take anything away from him. And if you know Eli, if you've spoken to him, if you've interviewed him, if you've met him, he's an incredibly nice and classy young man. I'm very fond of Eli Manning. But to say that he is underrated is hogwash. That's nonsense. And I'm going to call you on that. And here's why. You can't be underrated when you are an individual that has led the league in interceptions on 3 separate occasions. You can't be called underrated when you look at the New York Giants. And yes, we have those 2 Super Bowl victories. Let's go over the last 8 years or so, or 7 years or so, since 2009.
Now let's skip it.
Nope. 8-8, 10-6, 9-7, 9-7, 7-9, 6-10, 6-10. 3 consecutive losing seasons, 4 consecutive years they've missed the playoffs, 6 of the last 7 years they've missed the playoffs. These are the New York Giants. You've made the playoffs 1 time since 2009. The reason why we let that go is because they won the Super Bowl the 1 year they did make the playoffs. But they haven't made the playoffs 4 years since.
It's on Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin. That's on Reese and Coughlin. That's why Coughlin's gone.
Well, let me say this. You could say that's on Reese and Coughlin. And to some degree, you're right, because Reese needs to it's taken them this long, and they still don't have a running game. Okay? We understand that. Okay? Which puts more pressure on Eli Manning. Obviously, the offensive line, there were times throughout these last several years where they needed to shore it up. That wasn't the case. And then now the defense fell off because last year they were god-awful, which is why they drafted Eli Apple, who I think is going to be pretty damn good. Even though the experts tell us that he was picked too high at number 10 overall.
They needed help in the secondary. Yeah.
They needed help in the secondary, and they were questioning that whether or not he was taken too high. I think Eli Apple is going to be very, very good. It's just how soon is he going to be able to pull that off? That remains to be seen. I didn't realize they were going to pay $200 million in the offseason. The fact that they did that is going to help.
You brought up interceptions.
Right.
You brought up interceptions.
Right.
Now, I used to work with Bob Papa doing the fights.
Okay.
Bob Papa, of course, is the radio announcer for the Giants, and he has, he watches coach film and all this kind of stuff. And I would come in, we'd be doing a fight, and I'd be apoplectic. He threw another 3 interceptions, blah, blah. And Bob Papa, he's not making he's not an apologist for Eli. He's like, look, if you watch the film and you break it down, that's a receiver blowing out. Look, Eli has
hold on.
Eli
Ruben Randall was famous for that.
Yeah, of course.
Ruben Randall was running bad routes. He was running bad routes, and not only that, sometimes he was running the wrong route.
But Eli is the type of guy who takes risks. So he throws interceptions, but he also wins Super Bowls when others wouldn't. By the way, Nate Silver, forget about the fact that he went on the road, forget beating Brady twice, and beat Brett Favre at Lambeau in the NFC Championship game, and beat Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau in the playoffs, and Romo at Dallas State. He went on the road and beat all those guys. Nate Silver, 538.com, everyone knows Nate Silver, did about last year at some point, who's the most clutch player in quarterback in the history of the NFL Super Bowl era? The most clutch. Eli won by such a large margin, he thought his methodology something must be wrong. Let me use a different methodology. That time it was very close. Joe Montana came in second, Eli Manning first. So on top of everything else, in terms of the most sophisticated metrics, he's also the most clutch quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Let me say
in the postseason.
I respect the hell out of Nate Silver. he has a job that I wouldn't mind having because he gets to talk politics, and I wish some people would allow me to do so. Having said all of that, let's be clear. I don't give a damn about his numbers about football.
You care about Super Bowls? Two.
No, listen,
That's the number, two.
I said that. I'm a New Yorker, and I'm proud of Eli. What I'm saying is addressing your point about the word underrated.
Yes.
I am saying to you that's going too far. I cannot say somebody's underrated when you've missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years. If you're going to give the man credit for availability. Hold on. I'll let you speak. You sit up there and you brought up the fact that he hasn't missed a game since midway through 2004. That means 6 of the last 7 years when they've missed the playoffs, he's been your quarterback behind center every single game. You cannot sit there and point to Tom Coughlin and point to Jerry Reese and don't point to Eli Manning when you missed the playoffs 6 times in 7 years if you say overrated. Now, if you tell me that he can't play, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me that you wouldn't want Eli Manning as your quarterback, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me that you can't rely on him in the clutch, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me he can't play, I'm going to call you a liar. But don't tell me he's underrated when 6 times in the last 7 years he was home on his couch watching the playoffs like me and you.
I don't know if you heard, but
can't do
I
that.
said the first over his career, the most fourth quarter touchdowns.
I understand that.
Thrown. The most. So it's a team game. I'll say this. There are players at the quarterback position, many, who can do more with less than Eli. For instance, his brother could take an inferior team, could drag them to the playoffs, maybe even, advance in the playoffs. He could do more with less.
Yep.
Eli's not the type of guy who's going to take an inferior team farther than they should go.
Okay.
But if you put him on a good enough team, on a playoff caliber team, he can win you a Super Bowl. Now, the ultimate is a Tom Brady type who can not only maybe take a lesser team there, but also win there.
I'm trying to help you.
That's the uppermost echelon. Eli's not under that. He beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
Somebody trying to help you. You're making the point that we all know. Eli Manning can play, and
you're underrating that ability.
No. You're not underrating the ability.
The importance of what he does.
You're accurately analyzing the results. And at the end of the day, your points that you are making, as valid as they are,
Good. End of conversation. Molly, go to break.
Don't equate to him being underrated.
Wanted out front of the plate. Martin swipes it home. Save! He squeezed them in. Unbelievable.
This weekend, one of baseball's fiercest rivalries heats up at Wrigley Field.
And that one's gone. Home run for Matt Holliday as he gets into one.
Matt Holliday and the St. Louis Cardinals face Chris Bryant and the Chicago Cubs.
Chris Bryant will touch them all.
The Cardinals and Cubs, Saturday at 1:45 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
So, American swimmer Lily King had a heavy dose of trash talking against Russian drug cheat Yulia Yefimova on Monday, including a Dikembe Mutombo-style finger wave following Sunday's 100-meter breaststroke semifinals. Yefimova appeared to be mocking her by wagging her index finger after the first semifinal. Then last night, King backed up her finger wag and took gold in the 100 breast, while Yefimova took silver. After the race, King repeated that no athlete has ever tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs should be allowed to compete in the Olympics. Stephen A., what are your thoughts on this?
You know, it's interesting. First of all, congratulations to Lily King for doing what she did, representing the United States of America in stellar fashion the way that she did. She deserves praise. I'm here to give it to her. I also appreciate her words against drug use, cheating in the Olympics. You work your tail off to perform every 4 years. You shouldn't be forced to go up against cheats. Mm-hmm. Here's where I jump off the bandwagon. And in no way, I want to emphasize, in no way am I being critical of Lily King. I believe she's 19 years old. Am I correct? I think it's something along those lines. I think that she's 19 years of age. Let me make sure I'm very, very clear with what I'm about to say. Because she is right, but the stare down of Yulia and just looking at her and treating her like a cheat. There's only one problem with Lily King's position here. She represents the United States of America. Yulia represents Russia. Now, from a political perspective, as I'm sure you well know, we all know that Russia is a totalitarian state. We get that. We see Vladimir Putin. We see the issues he's got into it with, you know, our president, our country, etc. We know what happened in Crimea and the Ukraine and all of this other stuff. We get all of that. Let me read the definition of totalitarianism. It is a form of government. I'm reading here. It is a form of government in which the national government has complete control over every aspect of both private and political life. It seeks to meld government and its beliefs with society. All citizens are expected to approve its ideology or suffer the consequences. I could go on. You are representing Mother Russia, as we hear in the movies, and folks are fond of saying, you know, that are patriots of their nation, which is Russia. We know that it's not beyond the realm of comprehension that these athletes are watched, monitored. I'm talking about, you can go back to the days of communist, you know, Russia with Stalin and those boys, and the kind of things they used to do, wiretapping, reading mails, you know, going through all of this other stuff. Who's to say that this young lady, and most, if not all of those athletes, had this stuff forced upon them in order to compete in Olympic competition? So when you stare down Yulia, you're treating her as if she made an isolated decision to sort of circumvent the rules in order to cheat and win, when it has already been documented that teams, if not a vast majority of the athletes over in Russia, might be using performance-enhancing drugs, which means in all likelihood it's something that's forced upon them as opposed to it being their choice. And so I get where Lily King is coming from. I understand it. In the interest of fair play and beyond, we get her. I get where she's coming from. It's just that when you stare down your competition like that, it's sort of been like mano a mano per se, like you have something against her. You don't know what's been forced upon her because she comes from Russia. And who knows?
19,
She is 19.
Russia's not totalitarian. It's authoritarian. You could say that
authoritarian.
Putin is an authoritarian leader.
Yeah.
And he's a former KGB who's jailed, imprisoned oligarchs and confiscated their money and gets everyone in line. And the IOC rolled over for him. It seemed corrupt.
It sounds totalitarian to me.
The IOC rolled over and let all those Russian cheats into the games when Russia should have been disqualified from the Olympic Games. However, you're wrong about this one, Stephen A., because you mean to tell me a Russian athlete starts it, a Russian drug cheat, who's been caught cheating in the past, whose team should have been disqualified en masse, they should not have even been in the Olympics.
I agree.
Starts it with the finger wag, and then the American, the clean American, beats her and throws it right back in her face? USA. I got no problem with that at all.
I don't.
Go Lily King.
The way you explained it, I have no issue with it either. I'm just saying I piggyback off of her comments thereafter and her talking about cheats. And wasn't just the Russians. She's talking about Americans. She was talking about anybody.
She's clean.
I agree with that. I guess what I'm saying is that in America, you have more of the license to make individual choices. Some of these athletes from some of these other nations, I don't think we appreciate the conditions under which they live.
That's
and
a fair
how much
point.
we should appreciate the conditions under which we live. That's
by
what
the
I'm
way,
saying.
it is Cantor's father talking about how he's so.
They just owned him
because he's Erdogan in Turkey. It's the
That's
same
right.
sort of thing, of course, because he's afraid because another authoritarian regime. I understand that pressure.
That's where I'm going.
That doesn't mean you have to start with the finger wag. Put your head down. If you're the Russian athlete, put your head down, whatever. Once you finger wag, then the American who beats you, who's not a cheater, not only has the moral high ground to do it back in your face, Russia, but also then to come out and say, this goes for all cheaters. It's not simply nationalism that I'm talking about. It's fair play. I'm clean. Everyone should be clean. I applaud her for it, unequivocally.
Well, you applaud her for it unequivocally because you're thinking about the individual. I'm thinking about a nation of victims representing their
I appreciate that point.
their
She might have been forced to do that.
I'm just saying, and she may not have been forced because I didn't even think about it. I didn't even remember the wagging of the finger. I was reading the quotes and the things that she was saying about cheats. And I'm saying, you know what? This is the United States of America. If there was ever a moment to be proud, it's a moment like this because it reminds us of the freedoms that we have to make the choices that we do. I don't think that's the case for a lot of these nations that we compete against, and sometimes the athletes are the one.
That's a fair point.
The athletes are the one caught in the midst of it all when they may have had conditions forced upon them that we don't even appreciate.
That's a fair point.
That's my
Fair enough. Football is almost here. I'll be setting my DVR. Season 11 of HBO's Hard Knocks kicks off tonight with coverage of the Rams' first training camp back in Los Angeles. Stephen A., how interested are you in seeing these LA Rams?
I'm mixed. I have mixed emotions. On one hand, I'm very interested in seeing Todd Gurley. I think he's a stud. I'm a fan of Tavon Austin as well.
Yeah.
We'll see what Goff does, even though he's not designated as the starter as of yet. And this defense, particularly this front four, is no joke. We get all of that. The flip side is it forces me to think about Jeff Fisher. I'm quite sure Jeff Fisher's a nice man. I'm quite sure he's very knowledgeable about the game of football. My problem, Max, is I have an allergic reaction to people who don't produce but are consistently rewarded for their lack of production. In 4 years as the coach of the St. Louis Rams, this man hasn't had one winning season. They haven't had a winning season since they haven't made the playoffs since 2004. They haven't had a winning season since 2003. They've been a model of ineptitude. Jeff Fisher has been the latest ringleader in that regard, and yet somehow, some way, even in the throes of relocation and beyond, they keep him around for that. They extend him thereafter. He moves from St. Louis to L.A., which ain't a bad deal, okay? You got all of this going on, and what do you have to show for it? Hard Knocks. Now, HBO does a marvelous job with this. I have no doubt that it will be good. I just have a problem with somebody like Jeff Fisher, who has coached in the NFL for 21 years. He has missed the playoffs 15 times. And in a world where we're looking for opportunities for others who never got them, it rakes my last nerve to see somebody continuously get one opportunity after another just to have the opportunity to give us the same mediocre or less result. It is sad. And then they get hard knocks, so you get publicity.
Not a hard knock.
So you get it's not a hard knock.
Most teams don't want the cameras there.
I understand that, but he does, and they do. It's just amazing.
Who's the sexy star on this one?
Only in America.
Only in America.
Only in America.
Look. I can't wait for this. Hard Knocks always has me drooling for the beginning of the NFL season. I can't wait. But sometimes the team they choose isn't that interesting because the interesting teams don't want the cameras there. Here we have a team that's just relocating to L.A., and this was the heritage team in L.A. They were there from just about right after the Second World War, for 50 years. They're relocating back to Los Angeles that hasn't had a team in decades. They have the number 1 overall pick, who's a quarterback. They have the guy, the running back, who's about to take over. At a certain point, he's going to be the best running back in the game. I mean, Todd Gurley is coming. This is an interesting team. I can't wait. Now, you talk about Jeff Fisher. As Marcellus Wiley, my broadcast partner until not too long ago on the radio and TV, pointed out at the time, what Goff does is give Jeff Fisher runway. He now has runway because everyone knows it's a rookie quarterback.
Of course.
So it's actually a brilliant move from his point of view, because just when people like Stephen A. Smith might start calling for his head, it's like, need a couple seasons here to get this together. This is a rookie quarterback. They don't always hit the ground running, even the number 1 overall pick. So I hear what you're saying about Jeff Fisher, and I think that they gave up too many resources for Goff when there have been quarterbacks in recent drafts that you say, that's a sure thing. I don't know if Goff is a sure thing, just the best available guy. All that said, even that as a character, Jeff Fisher as a character, you're just making him more interesting. It has everything a TV show needs. Plus, of course, the bubble guys. Are they going to make the team or not? Like, that same storyline is going to be trotted out. And I guarantee you by the end of every episode, you're going to be banging your head against the wall going, why can't the NFL season be starting already? Now, of course I want to see it.
You can want to see it all you want to. And I'm not saying I don't want to see it. I'm saying that every time you show me Jeff Fisher, I'm going to be thinking about other aspiring coaches that were starving for such an opportunity and can't get it. And St. Louis's justification, or the Los Angeles Rams justification, is that we have Jeff Fisher as our quarterback.
How much runway do you give him? With a rookie quarterback, how much runway do you give him?
Well, I give him 3 years.
See, that's why he did it. 3 years. You don't like him and you give him 3 years.
I'm saying to you that if you're an owner and you hire a coach with a rookie quarterback, so long as he's developing and the team is not nosediving, you can give them 3 years. I'm saying that Jeff Fisher never deserved the 3 years to begin with. They should have had a new coach moving to L.A., a new everything, because, again, what have you really, really done? I know that he's drafted well. I know that he's accumulated talent. Snead and him together. I get all of that. But the flip side is, damn, 15 years out of 21, you have missed the playoffs, and you're getting extensions. Listen, why should I even bring up Marvin Lewis? I've been on Marvin Lewis forever about how he should lose his job because it's 12 years in the NFL. You haven't won one single playoff game. At least he makes the playoffs. I can't say anything to Marvin Lewis if I can't call out Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher's results are paltry, to say the least. And he's in the state we'd all like to be in.
So how many years?
You'll get to see him up close and personal now. Coaching, you're going to get to see him tonight.
There you go.
And you know what else we're going to get to see? Timmy Tebow in the majors. Gary Sheffield is one of the believers here. Here's what he had to say on Twitter. I spent some time with Tim Tebow in the cages recently. He's a natural. I absolutely believe in his ability to play in the bigs. Tim has it. # focused. Gary Sheffield with the stamp of approval. Guys, this might happen, Stephen A.
He inspires people.
That's a tough one for me to stomach because Gary Sheffield, that's my man. We go back a ways. He's got 509 career home runs, a lifetime 292 batting average. If he wasn't associated with Balco, he would be a Hall of Famer. I still think that we should be talking about him as a Hall of Famer. The fact that he says that about Tim Tebow gives me cause to pause.
Change my heart.
I can't convince you,
Joey
but Chef can
Jones.
convince
I
you.
respect. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see you hitting 509 home runs. What you want from me, a cookie? I mean, the bottom line.
How about the fact that he played with a bum shoulder for the Yankees when you still hit 30 home runs?
Gary Sheffield is big time, and I respect him because he's a man's man. He's as real as they get. It's hard for me to go against him. He certainly knows a hell of a lot more baseball than me. I'm not there, but I will admit Gary Sheffield has given me cause to pause.
Yeah, I see how you do your boy now. I see that. I see. Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield's big time.
So if Vladimir Guerrero comes out and says he can't do it, you're going to think he can't do it?
Maybe.
Max, he's swaying you a little there? Is he swaying you at all, Gary Sheffield?
No, I love Chef. I love Chef, but no, Tebow's not making the major league.
I don't believe that either, but he gives me cause to pause. But I will say this. Ain't no way in hell you going to convince me more than a player. You got to get over that, Max. You got to get over that.
You
sitting across from me.
The quality, the content of my argument.
I don't give a damn. I'm going to have more content. I'm going to have more content. It's just the way it's going to be.
Thanks so much for listening to the pod. Catch First Take weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Have a lovely evening.
This weekend, one of baseball's fiercest rivalries heats up at Wrigley Field. Matt Holliday and the St. Louis Cardinals face Chris Bryant and the Chicago Cubs. Saturday at 1:45 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.